because this is robbing you of viable life force energy. Hello, Scorpio. Welcome to your January soul session. I am Marlo if you're new, and if you're family, welcome back, my friend, and whatnot. Wait, that's too many cards. And whatnot or whatever. If you're not familiar with, hold on. I didn't mean to shuffle in your ear. If you're not familiar with what my soul sessions are, they are your spirituality as well as personal development readings in which so we're still doing this, in which we look at the energies that you guys may encounter for a given month for the sole purpose of offering you clarity, insight, and guidance and all that good stuff and whatnot, or whichever. So anywho, let's go ahead and jump into your cards. Happy 2022, Scorpio. The reason why I am doing you after Taurus is because in 2022, our South Node goes into Scorpio. So I felt that you guys' energy would be a nice introduction to the energies in the first of the year. So first card out, we have the Emperor in the reverse. Of course, that's Aries energy. And this is coming out of December/2021 into January/2022. So there's a level here, Scorpio, of disempowerment. It's interesting. I feel a vibe of bondage here, which is interesting, but it's bondage, not like devil bondage, but like devil card bondage, but bondage in the sense of false responsibility. So it's kind of more or less being in a leadership position. Doesn't necessarily have to be a literal leadership position. And I'm being told to clarify it, but being in a leadership position, meaning you could be a leadership position that's not literally a leadership position, meaning you could be like the oldest of all of your siblings, right? And feel some sense of personal responsibility, but it's a bondage because it's not an authentic desire to be in that role. So it's kind of like being an older sibling and consistently having to bail your younger siblings out, not jail, but consistently having to bail them out of less than stellar situations. And a lot of what drives this is should, oughts, and supposed tos, or playing that role in your friend group. So it's a leadership position that leaves you guys feeling in bondage in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And do I want to take this? I guess so. It kind of stuck straight out. And that's more or less what's kind of heavy on your mind coming into the new year. And not necessarily that you're consciously thinking about it, but it's more or less something that transpired that caused this to be top of mind. However, I feel that I'm not necessarily speaking from the perspective of you being consciously aware that this is something you don't have to do, because I'm under the impression you guys are feeling like this is the role you have to play. Now, the card we have, wow, that's something. The card we have clarifying it, if my autofocus, yes, thank you, autofocus, you're being a good gal in 2022, is hope in the reverse. So literally what that's saying to me, Scorpio, is being in this particular position. And I mean, for some of you guys, this could be job related, where you wouldn't necessarily be in an entry level position. I mean, for some of you guys, it could be, but I really do feel leadership vibes with this. So, I mean, it could be if you're in an entry level position and you're not necessarily responsible over any group of people, but it's just feeling oppressed by your job. But it would feel more to me like a shift lead or a supervisor or something like that. And there's someone that's over you and they're, got you doing a job that's set out for 10 people. And you're one person that's doing all 10 of those things. It's kind of like the vibe I get with that. But with this hope in the reverse being here, that's saying to me that whatever position you guys are in, and why I say it's like, I don't think you're aware of what it's doing to you, because it's siphoning your energy. So if there was anything that you wanted to put your attention to, like yourself, side project, what have you, you're literally so taxed and emotionally vamped from being in this position because there is no reciprocity. It's like it's a lot of whatever this is sucking you dry, and they're not replenishing what it is that they're sucking from you. That when you kind of go back to your own life and you're living your own life or looking at your perspective or your view on your own life, it seems pretty bleak and you're not really sure why you feel that way. But this is kind of like a little energetic leech, and you guys aren't seeing it as that. It's like, I'm being a good employee, I'm being a good sister, I'm being a good brother, because this is what I'm supposed to do. But you're not taking into account that this is sucking you dry. And this is the true root cause of, you feeling kind of apathetic and detached from your everyday life, if that's making sense. The next card that we have is the Eight of Pentacles and I'm about to say in the reverse, child. Let me not do that to y'all. It's just the regular old Eight of Pentacles. So this, for a lot of you guys, is very much work related, because the thing is, well, okay, two ways. I feel with the Eight of Pentacles showing up, this is work related. I probably would say the mass majority of you would probably relate to this in a working sense. But for others of you, this is that consistency I was seeing in this Emperor and the reverse of y'all always showing up, because this feels like something you have to do. You know what I mean? Because you've never been introduced to another perspective that tells you otherwise. So it's like, you're showing up and you're going above and beyond, and you're not receiving anything in return from this, because again, there's this element of, and I mean, I can see how that would happen, because I mean, if I were to put my therapist hat on looking at this is most of the work that most people do when they're first starting out therapy. It's people in general, all humans, a lot of times don't know that you have the permission to like not have to show up. You feel what I'm saying? Because it's the thought of like, oh my gosh, that's selfish, because that's my sibling. How could I not show up for my sibling? And it's like, easy, don't. It's like, if there's a person who's taking your kindness for weakness, and it's a consistent thing, and I mean, I'm talking about not just a hypothetical sibling or a hypothetical boss ending up in a difficult situation where the whole staff quit and you're the only one left, or your sibling gets divorced and their wife put them out and they don't have anywhere else to go. Like, not a situation like that, but meaning this in a habitual sense where you're always constantly putting out other people's fires type of deal. And the thing that I'm seeing with Scorpio, it's like you feel a personal responsibility to flawlessly show up for people this way, no matter how tired you are, no matter how tight your money is. It's like you're always, loaning money out or whatever the case, and you're not making the connection of, when you keep pouring into a bucket with holes in it, the bucket never gets filled, and eventually you're going to run out of water, if that's making sense. The next card that you guys have is the Five of Cups in the reverse. Come on, autofocus. I just spoke so well of you just a moment ago. Shame on you. Shame on you, old girl. But that's the Five of Cups in the reverse. And of course, this is speaking to devastation, I was told to say. Okay. That's interesting. Devastation, grief and loss. That's what I was going to say initially. In a very deep-seated unhappiness and sense of unfulfillment. And now I'm kind of getting a different vibe with this that's kind of reminding me of what I picked up on in Taurus, which would be your opposite sign, my friend. I picked up on a similar energy with Taurus, where Taurus people who resonated with it were harboring some sort of grief or loss from past tense, and they were using work as a distraction. I'm seeing something similar with you guys, Scorpio, where, and I'm seeing this manifest two ways. There's some of you who always rescuing people, right? or positioning yourself as a person that people always come to, which is very interesting for me because I don't think I've ever met a Scorpio person like that, because I'm just kind of scrolling through the Rolodex in my mind of all the Scorpios that I know. I know a couple of Scorpios who would never do this in a work sense, right? But I know a couple, and I'm not going to say y'all names. Y'all not even going to know who I'm talking about. But I know a couple who would do this for their siblings, where their mentality is just kind of like, F them people. But if it's your sibling, then it's a whole nother dynamic. I can see that. But the thing I dig about Scorpios is like, I find with you guys, it literally would have to be someone that you really care about that's close to you that would be able to do this, because most Scorpios will look at you like, if they don't really fool with you like that, and you come talk about like, ooh, help me with this, they just gonna be like, wow, really tough situation you're in there. You know what I'm saying? So this is interesting. But whatever the case, with Taurus, I was seeing it as them using work kind of as a distraction from this unfulfillment that they were feeling. And with Scorpios, I'm seeing it twofold, which means like two different groups would resonate differently with this. There's some of you that long since have lost hope in ever, having a reciprocal relationship, or having someone really show up for you and do for you what you do for other people type of deal. And this would be the reason why you're doing that, so it's kind of like projection, where this group of Scorpio people do a lot for others in hopes that maybe someday a person will reciprocate, even though deep down inside, that's never going to happen, because it's like a core belief of, people always take advantage of me, I always bend over backwards for people, and no one ever reciprocates this for me type of deal. So that kind of puts it in the context of like self-abuse a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And it's still just like you lost hope, but it's still just maybe type of deal. And that's kind of rehearsing a past pain here. So then there's like others of you where this is a distraction from the unfulfillment that you're feeling. You know what I'm saying? And it's very similar in the sense of like, I do it for other people because I know that I'll never have this, but at the same time, you being so readily available prevents you from even having to think about that. Because since you're so busy thinking about other people and helping them out and putting out their fires, you're so busy that you don't ever have to sit alone by yourself and really confront like this really deep seated devastation, like grief or loss, or it feels like a really heartbreaking kind of situation. Like that's why I can see where Spirit said devastation, because this isn't like a little minor disappointment type of thing. This is kind of like losing faith in humanity kind of vibe that I feel with that. You know what I'm saying? And then even with this Eight of Pentacles, I see a sense of temporary satisfaction and validation that comes from being a really dedicated employee, or being that friend that everybody relies on and comes to for the solution to their problems. And this is us just talking about the first week of January, Scorpio. So this is what's coming in top of mind, which falls into this theme that I'm seeing so far with all of the signs, is like crossing over this threshold into 2022. It's like any little sneaky thing, like little hidden leech, or little spiritual roach, as I call them, that followed us into 2022. It's like the light is being turned on as soon as the year turns over, so you don't enter the year diluted. It's like all of us are seeing very clearly, like, bam, here's the thing that followed you here and giving us an option to deal with it. The next card that you guys have is the Ace of Swords in the reverse. So that's more or less speaking to there being a need for a mental breakthrough here, Scorpio. So this is saying to me that this would be speaking to Scorpio people who are stuck in some sort of a pattern. And it's a pattern of how it is that you're showing up in reference to other people. And then with the Eight of Cups coming out, that's the need to walk away from what's no longer serving you. So when it comes to whatever it is that you're desiring in your life or what it is that you're trying to cultivate or build in 2022, this is literally the Achilles heel that will prevent that from coming to fruition, because the energy that you need, the hope that you need to move forward, or the strength that you need to walk away from this dysfunctional, I'm just going to call it what it is, this dysfunctional way of relating to people. All of this stuff needs to be put in check in order for you guys to move forward. So this is pretty much a message that's letting you guys know there's a need to walk away. This also says to me that somewhere around the midpoint of the month, so we're talking like around the 9th to like the 22nd of January, I feel that there's more or less going to be something that comes along, if it isn't just you listening to this reading. So I don't know if there's people who, oh child, what is it with these cards coming out like this? So I don't know if, and then we got a sideways card. So we got a good old free will choice going on here. I don't know if this is going to be maybe someone who would watch this later in the month or something like that. But I get this vibe of, with this Ace of Swords, in this Eight of Cups, it's like there's a level of denial, because I'm just a firm believer in the fact that we may not consciously know that we're doing something. We may not have the verbiage to say like, oh, I'm projecting. We may not have the verbiage or the awareness consciously to say that, but I feel it's almost like a niggle that you get in the pit of your belly. Like when we find ourselves in situations that aren't necessarily conducive to our overall growth, healing, and progress, it's almost like a little niggle that we get where something kind of feels off. But a lot of times we don't take the time to really sit with that for a second to be like, what is that? You know? So I feel in some sense or another, this may be a thought that crossed your mind, even if it was something as simple as like, dang, I help all these people. I wish there was somebody to do this for me. Or, man, I wish my boss would see, like, I'm here 16 hours every day. Like, can I get a, you know what? You've been working really hard. How about you take the rest of the day off? You know what I'm saying? Like a little thing like that. But I feel something's coming in the midpoint of the month where this is kind of energy hovering over you and what you guys are acting out coming into the month of January. But coming into the midpoint of the month, this is something where it's like the mirror is being held up to you. So it's very, very clear of seeing how it's a one-sided situation and how there's a lack of reciprocity, and it's offering you an opportunity to walk away from it. But the question is, what's finna happen, Scorpio? Next card we have is the Four of Pentacles. Okay, that's interesting. This is, of course, holding on. You know what I'm saying? This is when we fall into stagnation. Okay, so this falling into the center of your spread, this is already saying the whole end all be all of this reading, even before I finish turning over the rest of the cards, child. The whole end all be all of this reading is a mental breakthrough for Scorpio to see what's really happening here and for you guys to make the decision to walk away. However, still in this midpoint of the month with this Four of Pentacles, it's kind of being in denial. It's more or less, and this is interesting because, wow, this is interesting. Okay, so two ways. Whether this is you listening to this reading for me, I mean, you probably wouldn't even be here past this point if that's the case. But whether this is you listening to me or this is someone who literally calls you out on it, this is like cognitive dissonance that I'm seeing. And here's the tricky thing about cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is, you know, it's a psychology term, but it happens when a person has a false core belief, right? Or is aligned with something they think is positive that really isn't. And when another person comes along, I'm like totally in the business of cognitive dissonance doing this stuff that I do. But anywho, a person comes to you and they bring you like a new idea or new information that's contradictory to what you've believed up until this point, right? So cognitive dissonance occurs when a person is faced with what they believe to be true, potentially being proved as a lie based on new facts and evidence, and it causes a person to go kind of stir crazy in the brain, where it's just kind of like your mind fucked, because it's like, how is it possible? Like, there's no possible way this could be a lie, but they said this and da 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 da, right? And you get into this state of like anxiety and anxiousness, and you're overwhelmed with fear, right? And what happens more often than not with once you're experiencing cognitive dissonance is, to heal that dissonance, the person will typically dig their heels deeper into the false belief. And now that becomes a delusion. You know what I'm saying? Because someone has bought information to you, proving that what you believed up to this point is a lie. Right? So it's not true. That messes you up in the head. In order to heal it, the only two options you have is to either embrace this new truth and reject the old one, or, and this is what people do, like I said, more often than not, most people will reject the truth and dig their heels in and fully embrace that lie. That's what I'm seeing with this Four of Pentacles. And what this does is it stagnates you. So now there's not growth, because there's information to the contrary of what one has believed or what one has held dear or held on to this moment to not be real. And one is like, I'm holding on to this. And more often than not, it's because of fear, because the only other option is to step into the unknown and potentially, cope with the fact that everything one has known up to this particular point is a lie, right? So sometimes, for a lot of people, it's easier to just continue to believe the lie. However, I feel why this is coming up is because it's speaking to what could potentially happen, because any actions that are sponsored out of fear are not in your highest good anyway, especially if they're going to stagnate you on your path. You know what I'm saying? So I say all of that to say, Scorpio, that's very well what could happen. You know what I'm saying? And when I was saying the whole thing of like, if I'm the person who brings in this, contradictory form of truth type of deal, I don't know who would listen past that point if it was just like, that is a lie, but I hope that you keep listening. But anywho, but the whole premise of this is to walk away from that, because this false belief is literally what's keeping you prisoner, and it's not even serving you anymore. So it's kind of like being in this static kind of energy, and it's rehearsing the same stuff that's less than stellar. And if we were to just put a time frame on it, if we were to just look at the last year, it's like 2021 for someone in a position such as this would have ended the same way that it began. It's like, yeah, you may have accomplished some things, but it's like emotionally still kind of feeling in the same static state since the year began till it ended. You know what I'm saying? So the thing that I would say, my advice to you, my wonderful Scorpio people, would be to not be delusional, because that's how delusions happen. It's kind of like, to give you a real example, it's kind of like believing in Santa Claus. And, you're having someone who comes to you that shows you all the facts and evidence how it's not possible for a dude in a sleigh with flying reindeer to drop off presents to every single household all over the entire globe, right? And for you to look at those statistics, for you to look at the physics, and to be so, completely disheartened by this and in shock and awe at the fact that Santa Claus isn't real, right? That you go into cognitive dissonance and that's too uncomfortable. So you elect to say, screw all of the facts, evidence, and data. Science is a lie. None of this is real. All the numbers are played with. It's a conspiracy. Santa is real. That means you're delusional. That's the technical term for it, because it's believing something that has no, facts, evidence, or proof, or what have you. Moving right along, the next card you guys have is the moon in the reverse, which makes sense. That is Cancer energy. This makes sense to me as to why all of this would be coming out, because this is speaking to a shadow aspect type of thing. So, and my psychology terms, that's false core beliefs, which means this is false core beliefs that can, for some people, can go all the way back to childhood, and a lot of times speak to mother shadow aspects. If you're on the network in the shadow work course, I go into this, and I show you in your chart where to find all of this stuff. But yeah, this is speaking to shadow aspects. But with this moon being in the reverse, two things we can look at here, which is why I think this is so important. The Leo full moon in January is on the 28th. I feel it would behoove you, because that is the absolute most bestest full moon energy, to release anything that is preventing you from like trailblazing your path or being a leader of your own life. Like anything that you're kind of, or any codependent energies and things like that. The Leo full moon is a great time to release stuff like that, and to begin a process of forgiveness in relation to those things. So that would make sense to me as to why this is coming up in the midpoint of the month. So you can take it upon yourself to release it during this time in a, mundane type of sense. But for me to go a little deeper with this moon in the reverse, this is speaking to issues that can literally stem back to your relationship with your mom. Oh, wow. Interesting point there that I didn't see, especially if your IC is in Leo. You know what I'm saying? Because if your IC is in Leo, you typically spend a great deal of time in your childhood feeling voiceless or unheard or not seen, like feeling invisible, and if that would be a core childhood wound, then that of course would create an adult who's acting this way, like I suffer in silence and I'm a savior to everyone else and no one helps me type of deal, and it's a sense of, another way of looking at it is holding on to it. Like I said, with this 8 of Pentacles, looking at a diagonal from this 4 of Pentacles, it's speaking to a sense of personal validation that you get from that. It's like by being this hard worker person that's always there for everyone, you hold on to that because it's become so much of a part of your identity that you don't really know how to relate to people other than that. So cognitive dissonance would be caused in the fact of, if I were to walk away from this or stop relating to people in this way, who am I? You know what I'm saying? So I can totally get that too. But like I was saying, with the moon in the reverse, this is all speaking to needing to dive deep to face one's shadow aspects that have been holding one back. And for others, this is speaking to like issues that one has with their mother, meaning if one's mom was operating in her shadow aspects while she raised you, that this created like this inner wound that one is still acting out at present, right? Now, you guys, next card, which came out sideways, so y'all know for me, this is a free will choice kind of thing. Whew. All right. If this is not the kind of free will choice Scorpio should have, we have the Death card. And of course, that is Scorpio energy. So whenever cards come out sideways for me, that says to me that both the light as well as shadow aspects apply in said interpretation. And thus meaning that for you, my friend who I'm reading for, that this would be a free will choice, which means what choice does Scorpio have to make before the end of January? You have the choice to transform, into, your new state, to ascend to a higher state of being, to leave behind this old antiquated way of being that has kept you stuck up until this point. Or you can choose not to. Totally your choice. And you can choose to stay in the static, dead, heavy, non-movement, non-growth, fixed kind of energy. You know what I'm saying? And it's totally up to you. Because at this point, Scorpio, this would be saying that you guys are beating a dead horse. It also says to me specifically that this is something that Spirit has been attempting to bring up for you several times that you may not have wanted to face, because like I said, that interpretation I got with this hit kind of hard, where I'm like, ooh, that's deep. If this is someone who has, curated their entire identity in a way of showing up for people this way, like your validation, your, concept of who it is that you are as the person who shows up for everybody. And you've never taken time to get to know who you are outside of that. It's like, who am I if I'm not helping everyone? Like, who am I outside of that? This could even manifest in the sense of a person who's wrapped their identity up. And this is something I always forewarn new moms about. It's a little hard to do the first 3 to 5 years of your kid's life, but it's important to understand that before you were a mother, you were a human being. You were a person that had a name, that liked things and did things and had stuff going on, had dreams and aspirations for your life. And even though as becoming a mom, there's an enmeshment that happens when your child is, a new baby. But when kids get between 3 to 5, that's when they're starting to explore themselves in relation to the rest of their environment, But there's some mothers, we also talk about this in the shadow work course. Then there's some mothers who helicopter parent and really didn't fully develop their identity prior to being mothers. So who they are becomes enmeshed with their child, and they end up suppressing their children and not allowing their children to develop their own identity. And that's also sometimes women who end up suffering from empty nest syndrome, because it's like you spent your entire life centralizing around being a mom that you don't know who or what you are outside of that. It's like, what is my purpose? What is my reason for being here other than rearing children? So this could be something like kids moving out of the house, going to college, or moving out on their own for the first time, or God forbid if this went deeper into like a shared custody kind of thing, and not saying any other type of situations, but not wanting to share custody with another parent because it's looking at the kid like my kid, like not our kid, but my kid, mine. And that fear of what am I going to do like the week or the weekends that my kid isn't with me, because one has not developed an identity outside of that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a distortion of a healthy energy. Like, by all means, when you're a parent, who you are as a person is, of course, it's different, but it's an integration. It doesn't mean that you stop being who you are because you're a parent. It's like you exist simultaneously, both as individual and parent, because I assure you, your children will disappoint you, in the sense of if they're getting smothered and helicoptered, it's like the quickest that they can get away from you, they will. You know what I'm saying? And that's an unhealthy bond. Both neglecting your children and smothering them are two very dysfunctional ways of parenting. You have to find that middle road between the two, of allowing them to make mistakes, be who they are, make their own decisions, with you creating the boundaries in which they exist in. They don't need to know that they're there, but they ain't gonna cross them. You know what I'm saying? So that's the healthy form of parenting. I think that's interesting for that to come up, but whatever the case, the whole call for the Scorpio collective in the month of January is for you guys to die to this old way of being that is very static, that is not in service to you, and for you to align with a truth that is going to offer you the opportunity to expand and grow and continue to transform, my friends, because this is robbing you of viable life force energy. You know what I'm saying? But anywho, that has been your soul session, my wonderful Scorpios. I'm going over to my network, Vimeo, Patreon, YouTube members, all the places to do you guys extended, where we're going to look at how this energy plays out week by week. So if you're about that life, follow me on over there. But if not, I still love your freaking face, and I will see you guys sooner than later, my friends.